So let me ask again. I'd like to start this with a little engagement, and not just y'all listening to me talk. But if you had to put your finger on why you think retreats matter, what would you say?
It
Focus time.
isolates. Go ahead.
I just said focus time.
Focus time. I like it. What else?
It isolates men from all of what they're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah, away from the noise, away from distraction. I like it. What else?
Camaraderie.
Yeah, camaraderie.
Experiential.
Yeah, I think experience and what you go through there is really valuable and important.
It creates
Personal encouragement.
it, it, it
I
creates
heard
attention deficit, or pardon me, attention density.
attention density. I also heard encouragement. Yeah, so there's a number of things, right? So as we think about that, my life verse is Joshua 1:9, and it's have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And in my life, I've had a lot of those opportunities, typically when I'm surrounded by a group of godly men in God's creation. There's an opportunity that happens where we slow down long enough to listen to the Lord, to lean into that stillness that our busy lives and the noise that's there is typically isn't created well. um, we're all chasing after responsibility and all these other aspects that have a tendency to pull away. But in these retreat settings, what I've found is I've gained clarity and perspective. I've been challenged by other men, which being challenged is really important. Sometimes when you're in a large group setting, it's difficult. You don't always get the calling and the opportunity to be held accountable or even to invite someone that you've grown closer to in those spaces. And I think there's a great opportunity to connect with God. It's interesting. I've been on many retreats over the years, and one of my favorites was if anyone's ever rafted the Nantahala. I took a group of men down the Nantahala, which is not your Chattooga, which is like class 4 and 5,
Please touch
more of like
scan
a
for ticket or scan credentials. Thank you. Please enter.
uh-oh. But the Nantahala is usually class 2, so it's pretty relaxed, right? But it's an interesting trip to go down. But I'll never forget heading down the Nantahala. It was real quiet, real mellow, just me and a great group of guys. And we pulled over to what looked like a shack on the side of the river. And lo and behold, and it looked like a shack. They were making some of the best pizza I think I've ever had in my life. And as I'm sitting there on the riverbank, surrounded by a group of men who are just investing in each other and are just collaborating, and there's great camaraderie and that healthy locker room environment, and some decent jokes happening and eating our pizza. It was a good opportunity where I was reminded of Psalm 46. Be still and know that I am God. I realized that I'm in the middle of creation. I'm surrounded by good, godly men who are invested in me. It strengthened that brotherhood for sure. And I think something happens with men when we get outdoors together. Those walls come down, conversations get real, and growth accelerates. And there's an opportunity, I think, in these spaces because as men, let's be honest, right? A lot of times as men, we get busy, we get distracted, we get isolated, not in the great way, right? So, this starts in Genesis. Man is not meant to be alone. We see that, right? And then Adam's first sin is passivity. He sits there and watches Eve and doesn't say anything, right? So there's this opportunity that calls to us in those moments, in those spaces that says, hey, we carry a lot of responsibility, but often without brotherhood. We lead, but not always with clarity or conviction. And we show up, but not always fully engaged. One of the toughest things I've learned over the years, I've been investing in men's ministry for the last 17 years. And in that time, one of the hardest things for us as men to do is to be present. Well, when you have no other choice because you're in the midst of creation and you're isolated from all the noise and the things that easily distract us, there's some great growth that happens. So we've Warren and I've worked together to develop Ascend, and the vision of Ascend is essentially this. There's this thought regarding the Impact Player Men's Retreat, and it's not just another retreat; it's about the climb. And so the thought in this space is men are forged in the climb, and so it becomes a launching point for us as we head into the year, right? So ahead of our cohorts, there's a brotherhood that's built on shared challenge. it's a place, again, where men are forged, not necessarily entertained. The world is busy entertaining us, or as a society, we're leaning towards what are the things that entertain us. And this is an opportunity for us to reflect in creation, to reflect on God's impact in our lives, on the men around us, and hold each other accountable. And there's also an opportunity where, this journey specifically is going to be focused. We've already got the next 10 years of the retreat mapped. How cool is that, right? And that's thanks to Warren and his staff with these marks of biblical manhood. And so when we get into the retreat this year, Warren, alluded to it. There's 2 sets here. So in June, we're going to be looking for what we are calling the Trailblazers. So these are our leaders that we're looking for, an elite group of leaders that are going to help myself and Warren lead these retreats on an annual basis, set up norms, create a culture that is just unique, that calls to men, challenges them to be different, challenges them to lean in. And that's what we're chasing. And it's something incredible. I'm excited. Year 1 is going to be surrounding ferociously faithful. In a nutshell, there's this dynamic of, embracing every commitment and honor, every responsibility that's laid before us, and learning to love the grind and love that process. Warren shared a great video with me earlier today, and it just really resonated with me. But it talks about ferocious faithfulness. And what that really looks like, they compared it to a kitchen appliance, right? If the fridge only works 2 days out of the week, would we say that's faithful? Probably not, right? And so in our lives as men, it's the same way. If we only show up half of the time, is that ferociously faithful? Probably not. And so there's an opportunity where we're going to really lean in. We're going to grow here. There's going to be some great experiences outdoors. Will be lots of activities. There'll be, prayer walks and a time to lean in. So we'll have some good stuff. We're going to set some norms. So there'll be some cool, I don't want to dangle some swag, but there's going to be some cool things to walk away from that mark you in the midst of that piece, to where not only are you excited to come back the next year, but it's going to change the nature of your character. Because I think what happens is God pours his character down on us. And when we enter back into the normalcy of life, there's an opportunity. There's a crossroad that happens, right? So we've got an opportunity of, when people bump into us or inconvenience us or whatever, what bumps out of us has a tendency to be the nature of our hearts. And there's a call for us to rise above those things. Because my hope is when people bump into me, what you get is not inconvenience and aggravation, but rather grace and truth and love. Those are the things. Those are the attributes, again, God pours down, and hopefully those things spill out into other aspects of our life. So there'll be a great opportunity for us to be shoulder to shoulder, to link shields with other men in the outdoors, and to be challenged to step up and think differently. But there's some exciting stuff. So as I close, we'll have this, there'll be more to come, and more of a formal invitation, if you will, in a unique way, because we want you to know how special this is, but ultimately as trailblazers, those that are in there, we're looking for those that are interested in the call to help lead in this retreat space. I've had a couple of you already reach out to me, so thank you for your interest. And if you're one of those who hasn't raised your hand and thought about it, reach out to Warren and or myself, and there'll be more information to come in these spaces for sure. And then the formal, after we have that Trailblazer retreat, that'll be in June. It'll be, all of these are happening in the Pisgah National Forest, right? So we'll be in the Blue Ridge Parkway. And so ultimately we're at a place called Heart Ridge in June. And that's a retreat center that is really close to where our annual official formal retreat will be, and that'll be at Camp McCall. I don't know how many have had an opportunity to be at Camp McCall, but ascend and the climb are really relevant, because the chapel is a hike and a half to the top of this mountain. And so when you get up there, the site is breathtaking and worth reflecting upon. And we'll get an opportunity in June to tour not only the camp and the space and what that's going to look like, but again, you'll see a mini subversion of what that formal September retreat is going to look like. And again, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of roles to play. This isn't a one or a two-man show. It's not Warren and Eric. It is all of us being able to come together and invest and pour into men in a different way. So that's kind of my piece for the time being. I'll turn it back over to Warren to kick us off with the next speaker.